Good morning from Brian
and Chris.
This is the Society News for Friday the 4th of January 2019. Tuesday 8th of January. The swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Wight. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the site for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group. The strollers will be meeting this week. Coffee will be at Bluebells at 10:45, followed by a stroll in Wootton. Lunch will be at the Sloop at 12 noon. If you're interested in joining the strollers group, please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 to register your interest.
Wednesday the 9th of January. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this week from 10:30 a.m. There will also be our low vision drop-in between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. A weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for appointment. The Wednesday social group will be meeting this Wednesday for a quiz. The group meets from 2 p.m. till 3 p.m, followed by cake and tea. If you are not already a member of the Wednesday social group and would be interested in joining the group, please call Laura Jasper on 522205 to register your interest. The book group will be meeting at Lord Louis Library between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. We discuss the last month's book over tea and coffee and hand out the book for the next month. The books are available on CD or USB. Please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 for more information, or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
Thursday 10th of January. A new coffee morning will be starting at the Old Smithy Coffee Shop in Godshill from 10:30 a.m. until 11:45 a.m. This coffee morning will take place on the second Thursday of each month. Refreshments are available to purchase direct from the coffee shop. I have sampled their cakes and they're delicious. We hope to see you there. The Thursday social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? Site for Wight activities. We will be visiting West Wight alpacas on Friday the 1st of February 2019 for a guided tour, meet and greet with the animals, followed by a visit to the cafe. The cost will be £5 plus an additional £2 for the minibus if required. The closing date to register your interest for this activity is Friday the 11th of January. We will be holding a chair yoga taster session on Tuesday the 19th of February, which is a less strenuous alternative to the yoga sessions we held last year. The sessions will be at Millbrook House and will cost £6. The closing date to register your interest for this session is Friday the 25th of January. To register your interest for these activities, please call Laura Jasper on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
This week's In Touch. Books for the new year. Sally Clay's recommended audiobook, Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Ryan Kelly's audiobook recommendation, The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. Peter Wight's audiobook recommendation, 13 by Steve Kavanagh. Presenter Lee Cumutat, producer Peter Wight.
And now for the headlines in the county press on the 4th of January 2019. Stowaway shocker. Coach driver finds migrant hiding among luggage. A migrant stowaway was discovered on a coach returning to the island from mainland Europe, hidden among suitcases in the luggage compartment. And just days later, a European politician said a detention centre for illegal migrants should be built on the island to prevent them from reaching the UK mainland. Police were called to Wight Fishbourne Ferry terminal shortly after 8 p.m. on Friday evening, after the alarm was raised by the Carden travel driver. Passengers on the coach, which had returned from a Christmas trip to Austria via the Channel Tunnel, had to remain on board while officers searched the vehicle. One passenger, Brenda Hall, said, "We stopped as soon as the first passengers got off at Fishbourne and their cases were taken out. The driver could see there was someone in there. The police were called and came quite quickly, took the man away and searched the coach to make sure he was the only one." One man was arrested on suspicion of an immigration offence and the case was handed to Border Force. Coach and lorry drivers returning from Europe have to abide by strict regulations to prevent clandestine entrants from reaching the UK. Drivers must search their vehicles at each port and provide signed and witnessed paperwork as evidence. For every stowaway found, the driver and their employer can each be fined up to £2,000. A staff member at another island coach company who asked not to be named said, "Every reputable company carries out the checks, and Carden is a reputable company. They do everything properly. I think they were just unlucky. People will sneak into spaces you would never have imagined. People have climbed under the axle. They have put themselves in dangerous situations. They are lucky to come out alive at the other end. I haven't heard of it happening on the island before, but it happens throughout the industry." It was the same day Home Secretary Sajid Javid branded the rising number of migrants attempting to cross the English Channel. 94 had been detained since Christmas Day as a major incident. In response, East of England MEP Patrick O'Flynn said a detention centre should be built next to HMP Isle of Wight. Elected as a UKIP MEP, but now a member of the SDP, Mr Flynn tweeted on Monday, Illegal migrants coming from France shouldn't be allowed on the UK mainland. Suggest detention centre on Isle of Wight next to one of its jails." Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley was quick to scotch the suggestion and advised Mr Flynn to try another island instead. He replied, "Thanks, but no thanks. Land taken with plans for Green Village, old prison beyond use." The Camp Hill site has been earmarked for redevelopment as part of the Isle of Wight Council's regeneration strategy.
New Year brings 2 bundles of joy. The island welcomed 2 babies born on New Year's Day. Harris Reynolds arrived at 4:26 p.m, making an earlier appearance than expected. He was about 2 weeks early when he weighed in at £7 8 ounces, 3.58 kilograms, at St Mary's Hospital. It was a welcome start to 2019 for his parents Carly and Andy Reynolds of Cowes. Carly said, "It was a nice surprise and a lovely way to see in the new year welcoming our first child. He's a really happy baby. Next to arrive at the maternity ward was Archie Harris, who weighed in at £6 7 ounces, 3.08 kilograms, at 10:36 p.m. He is the son of Nikita Cox and Julian Harris. Proud new dad Julian, 48, of Arctic Road Cows, said his fiancée Nikita, 30, went into labour at 10:30 a.m. on New Year's Eve, before giving birth more than 36 hours later. She was helped in her marathon labour by Julian, who was present, and her birthing partner, Tracy House. Archie is the couple's first child together, although Julian has a 13-year-old daughter, Charlotte, from a previous relationship. Julian, who works as a bar supervisor at Cows Combined Services Club, said, "It was a tough birth, but Nikita was absolutely amazing. It was brilliant for us, absolutely brilliant."
Man had knife on chain to defend himself. Walking into a police station with a knife hanging from a chain around his neck landed a Newport man in court. Billy Joe Ford, 28, of Barton Road, Newport, admitted possessing a punch knife in a public place when he appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates. The court was told Ford was involved in a verbal altercation in Newport on November the 30th. Ford walked into the police station and spoke to officers as a complaint had been received about an alleged assault which had taken place earlier. In the police station, Ford was arrested, and he told officers he had something on him he should not have, the punch knife. When interviewed, he said he had it with him due to the incident that had happened in the morning, and he had a feeling something would happen. He had the knife to make him feel safe and to defend himself. Representing Ford, Barry Arnett said the case was very strange and punch knives could be bought on the internet. There was no suggestion he had used the knife. He said, although there was the altercation, he went to the police station voluntarily. He did wear it, but it was on a chain under layers of clothing. Ford was jailed for 3 months, suspended for 12 months. He was also told to pay £115 surcharge and £85 costs.
Skaters sparkle in major contest. In one of the UK's biggest synchronised skating events, a group of island girls belied the disadvantages of no longer having a rink in Ryde by winning a title. The two youngest Isle of Wight synchronised skating teams, the Wight Sparkles and the Wight Sequins, competed at the Wales and West Synchronised Skating Academy competition held in Cardiff. The Wight Sparkles, the more experienced of the two teams, were first to step onto the ice to perform a new routine to a Spice Girls medley in the juvenile category. Looking the part in sparkly red, blue and silver outfits, they shone in front of the judges, winning the class with a superb team performance. The 12-strong team, with 4 girls wearing a colour, impressed the judges with not only their choreography, but also the originality of their costumes and artistic flair. The Wight Sequence did not have to wait long before they were competing in the elementary category, entertaining the judges with their new routine to Randy Newman's much-loved tune, You've Got a Friend in Me, from the film Toy Story, followed by Cotton Eye Joe by the Rednecks. It turned out to be an amazing first outing for the team, considering 6 are new to synchro this season. With the team, supported financially by Wight Aid and supported by Wightlink, now training at Gosport, Isle of Wight synchronised skating has managed to keep the Wight sequins going, with new members from Gosport having joined the fold. But due to the closure of Ryde Arena in 2016, there is no longer the opportunity for new island-based skaters to start synchro and are unable to train on a home rink, said coach Terry Smith. All of the island skaters who have continued to follow their dreams have done so through sheer determination and can regularly be seen on a Sunday morning on the 4 a.m. car ferry, she explained. Ice time in Gosport is limited and teams only training fortnightly, which isn't ideal, but at least our island teams are still competing and achieving great results, including podium places. We are now looking forward to competing at the British Championships in Nottingham later this month. The White Crystals and White Jewels will also be in action, therefore all 4 teams representing the island will be giving their all against teams from across the country. Our skaters have overcome many obstacles to continue to train and improve with very limited training, ice and facilities. I'm very proud of all my skaters and the support of their families to enable them to still follow their dreams to skate and compete against the best in the country.
Dipping into the new year. Dozens of hardy souls braved the chilly waters off Shanklin on Tuesday in a charity swim to raise funds for the Wessex Cancer Trust. Pirates, a brace of Santas plus those dressed in swimming costumes, dashed into the sea for the New Year's Day dip, which took place at Small Hope Beach in the town. And also raising money for Wessex Cancer Trust, Birthday Cash Helps Bus. Instead of asking for presents for her 70th birthday, a Sandown woman asked for donations to help people undergoing treatment for cancer. Although the plea for no presents was largely ignored, Anne Taylor's family and friends raised £452, which was donated to the Portsmouth Daisy Bus, which transfers patients to the hospital on the mainland from the ferries. Both Anne and her husband Bob have had to rely on the bus in the recent past when they have undergone treatment for cancer. Bob also asked for donations to the bus for his 70th birthday earlier this year. To date, a total of £1,665 has been raised by Anne and Bob, with the help from family and friends for the Wessex Cancer Trust, which runs this invaluable service. They have also in the past raised many thousands of pounds for the chemotherapy unit at St Mary's Hospital. Anne celebrated her 70th birthday in style at Shanklin Conservative Club, joined by 70 of her family and friends.
Government's pledge to maintain Pier Railway. The Ryde Pier Railway line will be maintained as part of the Island Line franchise. Island MP Bob Seeley has won assurances from the government Network Rail will commit to maintaining the line. It was feared Network Rail may not provide the necessary investment. After meeting Mr Seeley shortly before Christmas, Transport Minister Andrew Jones said, "We expect Network Rail to make provision for and planning to undertake all necessary work required to maintain the Island Line train service in accordance with its asset management responsibilities. For the avoidance of doubt, that includes Ryde Pier Railway." Mr Seeley said the cost of the work should be met by the government. Franchisee South Western Railway has submitted a bid for Department of Transport funding to buy new trains, upgrade the track and invest in the pier. I'm delighted the government has committed Network Rail to invest in the Ryde Pier Railway, thus ensuring its future. This is good news for Island Line users, specifically those who use the ferry from Ryde Pierhead, said Mr Seeley. I received a general commitment over the future of Island Line in October, but this latest letter specifically includes the Ryde Pier Railway by name, which is what I was looking for. Founder member of the Keep Island Line in Franchise, KILF, Island Line Campaign Group, Chris Kirk, welcomed the brilliant news. In reality, fixing the pier is more important than fixing the trains, because that connectivity to the mainland is the most important thing, he said. It's integral to securing the future of Island Line, and I'm pleased that South Western Railway is looking at the long-term viability of the service.
New flats for those needing support. People with learning disabilities are being moved out of residential care homes and into new flats. The accommodation, Brook Lime House near Newport, has been built specifically for residents who have learning disabilities and/or autism. There are 12 flats, which are part of the NHS England's Transforming Care programme, which aims to get people with learning disabilities out of institutions and into the community. The residents will be able to live independently with support at Brook Lime House, which cost £1.9 million to build. A further 3 flats, which can accommodate up to 7 people, are also now available in a refurbished property in Sandown. It means some people with learning disabilities and autism will be able to return home to the island after previously living in residential care homes as far away as Cornwall and Wales. Sue Lightfoot, Head of Commissioning, Mental Health, Learning Disability and Dementia at the Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, said the flats are part of a new housing development in a great location near to Newport Town Centre, and the accommodation in Sandown is even closer to local facilities. We are keen to encourage the new residents to become part of the community, and in Sandown the parish council is helping with this. The residents are a mix of ages and have different needs, and they will all have a tailored package of care to provide them with the support they need.
Abominable snowmen spotted in Shorewell. A record number of runners, more than 450, blew the Christmas cobwebs away by taking part in the 5th Abominable Snowman Tough 10 running event. The field, most of which represented the main running clubs on the island, tackled either the 10-kilometre or 10-mile courses at Cheverton Farm, Shorewell on Saturday. There was even a run designed for kids, the Mini Snowman, with around 60 taking part, many of them accompanied by parents. The courses lived up to their billing, with runners having to wade through waist-deep water in places, natural obstacles and steep and muddy trails, boosted along the way by the sounds of fat samba. In the 10-miler, the main race, Jack Grundy won it, crossing the line in 1 hour, 14 minutes, 20 seconds, followed by Les Cupis, 1 hour, 18 minutes and 2 seconds, and Sean Williams, 1 hour, 18 minutes, 24 seconds. One of the event's most notable achievements came from Robin Fosser, 13, who finished 7th overall from a field of 126 runners, as well as being the first female home and the junior category winner. Also completing the 10-kilometre course was visually impaired Sarah Probert, accompanied by a group of Ride Harriers teammates. James Fletcher, another junior athlete, won the 10-kilometre run in 46 minutes 46 seconds, with Callum Tanner 48 minutes 26 seconds second, and Paul Wood 50 minutes and 1 second in third. To celebrate the 5th year of the event, its organisers GP Sport teamed up with ride-based Goddard's Brewery to produce a limited edition Abominable Snowman beer, samples of which were given to competitors halfway round the course and as spot prizes. Phil Payne of GP Sports said, "We are very happy with the way the event went and are pleased to see it grow year on year. This year saw record numbers take to the start line. The event has become a staple of post-Christmas fun. A sixth event is being planned."
Driver died at the wheel. An elderly driver who collapsed at the wheel in Wroxall on Wednesday died at the scene. Police confirmed paramedics were unable to revive the man, aged in his 70s. Island emergency crews were called to the scene at Clarence Road shortly before 5:30 p.m. The man, believed to have suffered a medical episode, had crashed into a parked car and a lamppost. An Isle of Wight spokesman said a blue Vauxhall had collided with a parked vehicle, a red Citroën CI, and then with a lamppost. Members of the public assisted at the scene and carried out CPR on the driver before an ambulance crew arrived. Unfortunately, they were unable to revive the man. The incident is being treated as a sudden death and a file is being prepared for the coroner.
Ryde named as UK's property hotspot. Ryde has been named Britain's property hotspot of 2018, with house prices rising by more than 10%. An average house in the town cost £242,016 and was the place where average home values rose by the most last year, according to property website Zoopla. While a typical property in Ryde rose in value by 10.24%, adding £22,500 to the cost of buying it, the average UK home's value climbed by a far lower £2,860, Zoopla figures have revealed. Ross Taylor, branch partner at Pittis in Ryde, said the news was positive for the local economy. While 2018 saw a slight fall in the amount of properties sold, keen demand for property on the island resulted in Pittis achieving high offers in many cases. Sale prices often exceeded expectations, with many customers receiving offers higher than their initial asking prices. Ryde is currently experiencing some exciting rejuvenation projects. The Royal York is undergoing refurbishment after being derelict for well over 10 years, and other buildings in the surrounding areas are also being brought into the 21st century. The Ryde area has become more and more popular over the 10 years I have worked with Pittis, and we've experienced increasing interest from mainland buyers looking to move to or invest in the area. Simon Ratton from Fox and Home Estate Agents in Ryde said the town was an undiscovered jewel on the island. He said, "It is a place which is close to the ferry terminals and so many people commute to work. It makes perfect sense to live here. Ryde has a lot of history and has a lot going for it. We have noticed a demand from people wanting to move to Ryde."
Coffee shop is now going up in the world. Cafe Isola has opened its upstairs mezzanine level to the public and was selling local products just in time for Christmas. Owner Dan Burgess told the county press what to expect from the new level to the stylish cafe after it opened last Tuesday. "This is our retail area opening up. It's got a lot of great local crafts and other stuff. We've got more of our own wholesale coffee for sale up there too. In the near future, the store plans to move one of its own coffee roasters upstairs so people can sit, enjoy some food or hot drink, and watch how the wholesale operation works in part." Dan added, "It's nice to be doing something that is positive for the high street, when all we're hearing is doom and gloom. The cafe plans to expand its wholesale offering in 2019.
New home for popular festival. The hugely popular Jack Up the 80s festival is returning to the island this summer with a new name and a new venue. The event is switching locations from Smallbrook Stadium Ryde to North Fairley Farm alongside the River Medina outside of Newport, and will be known as Jack Up the Summer. The family-friendly festival will continue to celebrate the upbeat, hand-clapping music of yesteryear, centred around party hits and feel-good music from the 80s and 90s. Organisers said, "We're now into our 7th year, and with so many UK festivals having latterly fallen by the wayside, it's essential we allow the event to evolve naturally, but without losing any of the fun-loving charisma which embodies the Jack Up brand and makes it unique. We want to be able to bring audiences a wider variety of acts. However, it goes without saying, we still absolutely love the 80s, and the 80s spirit will always be at the heart of Jack Up the Summer." In fact, the 2019 edition of the event guarantees 100% 80s chart acts on one of the 2 days. We continuously listen to the demands of our audience and have always thrown a number of curveballs into our lineup, starting with the Hoosiers at the very first edition of the festival back in 2013. Organisers added, "We thought spreading the event out across 2 areas last year would enhance the festival offering. However, this caused families to become separated and the experience was quite disjointed. Being a family event, Jack Up is all about togetherness, so we're ensuring a much safer environment for our customers by bringing the show back into one big field so the kids can enjoy themselves at the fun fair while the adults party on down to the music. This way, no one misses out and all the amenities are fully accessible. The first wave of artists for Jack Up the Summer, which takes place over the weekend of August the 10th and 11th, will be announced in the coming weeks, with early bird tickets going on sale at the end of January."
Island beaches hit by landslips. Landslips have beset Isle of Wight beaches over the recent weeks. At Brook Beach, the path has dropped, leaving a steep step of nearly a foot. Walkers who manage to navigate this obstacle will then find the beach is harder to access as most of the route has been washed away, leaving a narrow pathway and a steep climb down. Along the West Wight coast, there is further evidence of erosion, with a considerable cliff fall along the beach at Bryston. Another landslip occurred at Allen Bay Chine, and the path leading to the beach, which has been closed due to the wooden steps being dangerous to use. David Howarth, chair of the Isle of Wight Ramblers and path representative for the Totland area, said, "I went to Allen Bay to look at the path closure. There has been a landslip along the chine exposing the top of the steps. The wooden steps do not appear to be damaged but are in a vulnerable state. There were many people around, although I did not see anyone attempting to use the closed path. He wants to find out what can be done to reinstate the path."
Clue to new takeaway. It looks as though a McDonald's drive-through is coming to Newport after the famous golden arches were spotted on a planning document. Developer South Coast Leisure has lodged an application with the Isle of Wight Council for a retail and leisure park at St George's Way featuring a 24-hour gym and drive-through restaurant. Although SCL has remained tight-lipped over potential retailers, it has been rumoured supermarket Aldi and home and garden centre Wickes will occupy 2 of the 6 units. McDonald's has now been added to the list after the fast food chain's M logo were spotted on a planning drawing posted with the online application documents. The logo, marked at the entrance to the drive-through, is the same as the one currently painted at the entrance to the Ryde branch. In addition, a transport assessment lodged with the application comparing the number of visitors to other drive-through restaurants name-checks 4 other McDonald's restaurants elsewhere in the country.
Petition bid to save Law Centre. More than 3,000 people have signed a petition to save the Isle of Wight Law Centre. The signatures have been collected by the Isle of Wight Labour Party and Unite Union in just 3 weeks. The Isle of Wight Council has asked £70,000 worth of grant funding for the Law Centre, which provides legal advice to people unable to afford a solicitor. It is due to close in June, with the loss of 12 jobs. Last year, the Law Centre helped more than 60 people facing eviction. Its work preventing homelessness saves the Isle of Wight Council an estimated £1.5 million a year. The petition calls on the council to continue funding the centre. In a statement, Island Labour said the Law Centre provides many invaluable services, including preventing evictions and repossessions at a time when homelessness is rising at an alarming rate. Many Labour members work in public services and know how vital services offered by the Law Centre are, particularly in these times of austerity when so many core services have been hollowed to the bone and legal aid reduced to nearly nothing. We believe access to legal advice and justice should be a right for all, not a privilege only for those who can afford it. Island residents have sent a very clear message to the council. We will not stand by idly as this service is taken from us. We need the Law Centre now more than ever, and we are prepared to fight for it. The petition is due to be discussed at the council meeting on January the 16th.
Still no solution to bus shelter impasse. A bus designed to house the island's homeless population still does not have its own permanent home. The Isle of Wight bus shelter was originally situated at Sea Close Park, Newport, but moved from the site during the Isle of Wight Festival in June 2017 and has not reopened due to difficulties finding an appropriate site. The bus has now been left to rust unused in Sandown. Its new manager, Carl Print, said if the problem was not resolved soon, he would have no choice but to sell the bus for scrap or move it to the mainland. In January 2018, the council promised to support the search for a suitable site. The charity provides people with a place to sleep as well as food and clothing on its unique bus, which was manned by volunteers. According to council figures, the island needs provision for 6 homeless people a night. However, Mr. Print said that this did not give an accurate picture of the situation. He said, "I know of at least 12 people in Newport alone, and in Ryde the problem is much worse." Mr. Print said the figure likely related to how many people were approaching the council for help. He said he had raised the issue with the council but had been ignored. The Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Mental Health Champion, Councillor Claire Mosdell, did not respond to repeated requests for comment on the issue. Independent Councillor Ian Stevens, questioned Council Leader Councillor Dave Stewart about the bus shelter during a full council meeting in November. In response, Councillor Stewart said, "Unfortunately, it has not been possible to identify a site, and subsequent to a meeting, the bus shelter confirmed it was investigating the use of a site in Sandown. Currently, homeless people on the Isle of Wight can attend the Salvation Army night shelter in Newport, which is open from December to March. The Salvation Army has no plans to open a permanent shelter, but said it would review this decision at the end of March. It said it had not been approached by the bus shelter to discuss the possibility of working together. A spokesperson said, "The Salvation Army values partnership working and has a proven track record of this within our homelessness portfolio across the UK. Our door is always open to discuss ways of supporting the most vulnerable people in society."
And following on from that, special dinner with the Salvation Army. Dozens of dinners were served up at the annual Salvation Army Christmas Day lunch. Volunteers from all over the island came to help out. The aim of the event was to provide the homeless or anyone who would otherwise be alone at Christmas with a free hot meal and pudding, but the event was open to all. The meals were laid on by community donations and prepared by volunteers who gave up their time on Christmas Day to cook and serve up the food. Volunteers were also in on Christmas Eve preparing the vegetables.
Bridges to be upgraded. Yarmouth Bridge will be repainted and Medina Quay Bridge reopened this year. Island roads will upgrade more than 60 structures, including road bridges, footbridges, retaining walls and culverts as part of the Highways PFI project. Pedestrian footbridges over the railway at Skew Bridge Lake and at Alresford Road Shanklin will be replaced, and bridge strengthening schemes carried out at Park Road near Wootton, School Green Road at Freshwater, Hill Place Lane at Boldner and Free Place Lane at Wellow. The steam railway line bridge at the Ponderosa Ashy will also be strengthened. New barriers will be installed at Shepherd's Chine, Atherfield and Haven Street Stream Bridge, and a new railing installed along the retaining wall at Whitepit Lane, Newport. UV materials will be used to waterproof the bridges at Core Hill, Forest Road, Newport, Priory Road, Old Shanklin, and at Scotchell's Brook near Shanklin. A pedestrian and cycle footbridge at Medina Park will be replaced, while the cycle path between Newport and Sandown will be upgraded at Hazley Bridge and Blackrock Bridge. And it's goodbye this week from Brian.
And from Chris, and may we wish you a very happy and healthy 2019.
Hello, this is the second part of the County Press for January the 4th, 2019. And your readers are Lynn and Megan. We're starting off with correspondence. There are 21 empty shops in the High Street, and this letter comes from George Chastney from Cowes. News that crisis-racked retailers across the country had 20 billion wiped off their value during 2018 is well reflected by the unprecedented number of empty shops in Newport. The island's capital town ends the year with no fewer than 21 closed shops in the High Street alone. Not only do these unoccupied frontages create an unappealing sight in this important hub of island life, but reduction in businesses means less choice for customers and the loss of many jobs, not to mention a serious loss of business rates. So, what to do to reverse this worrying state of affairs repeated in so many towns on the island and mainland? It's not going to be easy, particularly as one insolvency practitioner is reported to have claimed that the number of retailers in financial distress in the country could be more than 30,000. Clearly, heavy discounts, which have been so prevalent in many shops, especially after Christmas, is not the real answer to a healthy balance sheet. with the likes of Lidl, Morrisons, Sainsbury, Asda and Marks and Spencer providing their customers with free parking, the time has surely come for the Isle of Wight Council to offer something similar in their car parks in all their towns. To partly offset car park income, the council stands to take a share of the £675 million the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Philip Hammond, recently provided to local authorities to regenerate high streets. Dudley Council is allowing cars to be parked free for up to 2 hours. Other mainland councils have also apparently offered special parking deals. Communities Minister Jack Berry is said to have wanted council charges to be scrapped altogether. A reduction in crippling business rates and rents would greatly help. In addition, to enhance the community spirit of the town centres, it would be an excellent idea to financially persuade shop landlords to actively release rooms above for conversion to much-needed flats. In Newport alone, there are far too many clearly unused floors above the shop. Don't we have a homeless problem? Then there is the elephant in the room, purchasing online. Most of us indulge in it, even though we would welcome evidence that the government's tax take from Amazon and the like is on par with that applied to shops. Most people, I am sure, would probably hate to think their online purchases killed off high streets like the one in Newport, or at least reduces it to a shadow of its old pulsating self. Clearly, a concerted effort is needed by all decision makers in a range of directions to ensure this never happens.
And now a letter from Sam Canill-Jones from Totland. A cheery note, so this is called Roses in Bloom. Roses have been in full bloom on Christmas Day at Totland. I had a pink rose out in full bloom in my garden on Christmas Day, and my cousins, who live at the bottom of Moon's Hill, also had several roses out in their garden. Furthermore, there were daffodils that were fully out in Spinfish, Freshwater. This very mild December has been responsible for these sightings. And then a letter from Robert Woodward, East Cowes, entitled Healing Arts. A couple of days ago, I was discharged after almost a week of medical tests in the stroke unit of St Mary's Hospital. As I was able to move about within the ward, I discovered, to my great surprise, it is decorated in all its corridors and many of its side rooms with some wonderful paintings. They did much to aid my recovery and to make the general ambience of the department much more cheerful. There is such a lot of brilliant artwork in the hospital. It is sad only sick people or their visitors gets to see it. I would like, therefore, to see some of it put on public view somewhere on a short-term basis to show just what treasures the hospital owns and use to perhaps raise some money for the hospital by charging a small fee for public viewing. Furthermore, there is such a huge quantity, the exhibition could be quite large without depriving very much the wonderful displays inside the hospital itself. And what's more, if an annual exhibition of hospital art were to be established, there is so much material available that this could easily develop into a popular fundraising event.
And now we are going to look back. 100 years ago, January the 4th, 1919. A painful tragedy took place at an East Cowes property when the influenza epidemic led to a mother taking her own life. The woman's husband and 4 children had fallen ill with the flu, and the worry of attending the sick ones and the fear of fatal results played on her mind. Her husband said she had worried herself into a very bad state and had no one to help her. Cowes was packed with spectators as one of the surrendered German submarines entered the waters just off the island for public inspection. It was moored off Thetis Wharf. The county press reported these vessels had wrought such murderous devastation on the mercantile marine of Great Britain.
And now, 75 years ago, this is January the 2nd, 1944, a Christmas reunion took place in Newport between a woman and her soldier nephew. Mrs. Snellgrove, who had not seen her sister in 30 years, had a visit from Sergeant Ivor Richards, her nephew, who she had only met once. The pair went to Christmas Day service at St. John's Church and saw the meeting of the Isle of Wight Foxhounds on Boxing Day. And a Shanklin woman was overjoyed to receive word from her soldier husband. Private G.H. Odell was presumed dead after there had been no correspondence for more than 3 years, but a very special Christmas gift, a card on Christmas Eve, arrived at Mrs. F. Odell's house. It said he was safe and well, although a prisoner in Japanese hands in Malaya.
50 years ago, on January the 4th, 1969, the county press reported 10,000 car ferry bookings had already been made for Saturdays throughout the summer season. Captain I. Wheeler, manager of the British Rail Car Ferry Department, gave the announcement at a meeting for hoteliers in Sandown. Ryde Town Council protested over a scheme to replace the tram shuttle service along Ryde Pier. The new plan from British Rail was to remove the tram and rely solely on the train service. Residents and the town council rejected the plans and stated train services were often unreliable.
And then 25 years ago, January the 7th, 1994, torrential rain and severe flooding, which lasted for a week, brought New Year misery for hundreds of families across the Isle of Wight. Even the most senior of island firemen and highways engineers said it was some of the worst conditions ever experienced. Communities were cut off, roads were rendered impassable, some by severe landslips, and countless homes were swamped by thousands of gallons of rain and surface water. A new species of meat-eating dinosaur was found on the island. The beast, complete with a mouthful of 4-inch teeth, was excavated on private land in a 5-year process amid a tight veil of secrecy. Steve Hutt, the Isle of Wight's leading dinosaur expert, said they had 60 to 70% of the animal, including full skull and teeth.
And now 10 years ago, on January the 2nd, 2009. With the country entering recession, islanders have backed local businesses this Christmas. Several independent retailers have commented on strong support from the community, despite growing fears for many British businesses. Richard Hodgson of the award-winning Isle of Wight Cheese Company said it had been a bumper year. An Isle of Wight man thought his new pop maths quiz would be a great way to entertain him and his friends. But Toby Collard's fun puzzle, which uses band names to solve sums, appeared on websites such as The Guardian online. He said, "I think people like it because it's just so ridiculous and fun. It definitely keeps me and my friends amused. We annoy our girlfriends by playing for hours."
And now on to Wight memories. Bid to save a piece of the Isle of Wight's heritage. Wight Aviation Museum has launched an urgent appeal to raise money to save an historic British cushion craft from being sold abroad. Originally built on the Isle of Wight at St Helens on the shores of Bembridge Harbour, this particular hovercraft is at risk of leaving the UK to an overseas buyer at auction in January. The museum, not yet open to the public, is a registered charity and needs to raise around £15,000 to cover the purchase, transportation and refurbishment of the cushion craft, so the museum can put the craft on display to the public at Sandown Airport. The museum would also like to use the skills and knowledge of those that were originally involved in its production who are still here on the island and able to assist. The reason for the urgent appeal is the unexpected availability of the craft. The museum had a call from Warwick Jacobs, who founded the world's first hovercraft museum in 1986. He said, "My first thought was this naturally belongs on the island, paying tribute to the work of Britton Norman." Naturally, the Wight Aviation Museum trustees agreed. The museum will have to act quickly if it is to secure this icon of engineering excellence for British aviation heritage, as it is highly likely that this will be sold off to a potential buyer from overseas at auction in January. A donation page has been launched to help raise the funds needed. A spokesman for the fundraising appeal said, "We are raising funds to bring a rare CC-7 cushion craft back home to the Isle of Wight. These hovercrafts were built by Britton Norman in the late 1960s at their works in St Helens on the island. The CC-7 formed part of a going programme of hovercraft development by BN and were built to aircraft standards. The CC-7 represents a vital part of the island's engineering heritage, which is at risk of being lost for good."
The CC-7 will be restored by the Wight Aviation Museum team and will be displayed for the public to enjoy at our museum. In 1960, Britton Norman Limited began trials of its new cushion craft. Their name for an air cushion vehicle built which needed to be flown above the terrain. It was used initially to assess the potential of this type of vehicle for the carriage of bananas from the plantations in the southern Cameroons. Together with its associated company, Crop Culture Aerial Limited, Britton Norman studied the potential for the cushion craft in many different countries. These investigations revealed the possibility of a breakthrough market in transportation techniques by the use of air cushion vehicles, which could accelerate the pace of development in territories where roads are non-existent and costly to build, and where rivers are seasonally unnavigable. It was a very similar concept to that used to promote the BN Islanders' Land Rover capabilities in the air, still in service today all across the globe. Cushioncraft was eventually sold to the British Hovercraft Corporation in 1972. Marine skills were used to develop the first aircraft, and it was aviation skills that were used to develop cushioncraft, using reverse engineering concepts, which is why the first hovercraft were flown by pilots. The museum's purchase and public display of the hovercraft will be a fitting tribute to those who worked at St Helens and later went on to manufacture a wide range of hovercraft that continued right up to its transfer to Griffon Hoverwork in 2008. The museum has said that should it not be successful in raising the sum needed, it guarantees that all money donated will be placed into restricted funds and will be used only to purchase further acquisitions for the museum. Anyone contributing can be kept up to date with the museum's newsletter, so the progress being made by volunteers and members can be seen. To sign up for newsletters, email whiteaviationmuseum@gmail.com. Anyone can donate online at www.mydonate.bt.com/events/White Aviation Museum.
And now we go on to My View. And the first one this week is by Rebecca Ron Coroni. And the title is Could Ryde Become Our Little Brighton? And it is accompanied by a photograph of the Esplanade. It was surprising and interesting to read the news that Ryde was Britain's top property hotspot of 2018, according to Zoopla. Yet I have thought for a long time Ryde has the potential to turn into a little Brighton. Ryde's links to the mainland make it very possible to commute to the mainland for meetings, to work and to study. My nurse training theory was largely at Queen Alexandra Hospital Nursing School in Cosham. Using the hovercraft plus taxi at the other end meant my commute from Ryde to Cosham was around half an hour, less than the time it would have taken to drive to Freshwater. My other half can easily be in Waterloo by 8:30 a.m. using the Fast Cat and train. The advent of communication technology such as Skype, as well as the ability to send stuff securely over the internet, means where people live in proximity to their work in many jobs is not as important as it used to be. Ryde's huge sandy beaches have got to be up there with the best in the UK, with public toilets, masses of parking, playgrounds, amusements, pubs and cafes, all within a few minutes walking distance. The pier and the Esplanade are still beautiful echoes of Ryde's Victorian past, when the town was seen as a smart place to live. It would be wonderful to see them both restored to their former glory. Although it's a bit of a faded beauty right now, Ryde has amazing potential to be a buzzing, thriving town and community again. It is one of the only places on the island that has a proper high street that isn't chock full of the big brands and coffee shops. It has bakeries, craft shops, antique shops, the best cake decorating equipment shop, cafes, a hardware shop. And it has little artisan shops that pop up. Some thrive, some don't. I just hope the Isle of Wight Council rethink their proposals to charge for parking on Union Street. No one wants to pay $1.50 to go and buy a loaf of bread. It has character. Ryde has always been diverse, and I believe that very diversity is what has allowed it to survive, while places like Newport are looking grimmer every year. Isle of Wight Pride, held in Ryde this year, was a triumph and put Ryde on the map as a warm, diverse and fun place to be. Ventnor has also come to the fore, especially in arts and music, with its Ventnor Fringe Festival and many events it holds over the year that are attracting bigger names and bigger audiences. My hope for 2019 is these potentials are realised, that as an island we take steps forward, support and cultivate the talents, skills, ambitions and hard work so many people are putting in to make the island thrive again.
And then now the article by Malcolm Mime, and he's entitled it Arise, Winners of the Malcolm Mime Award Gongs. The New Year's honours list is always full of people in the public eye whom the government have deemed to have done something special But the Isle of Wight has many of its own inhabitants whose greatness goes unnoticed by the masses. Let me take this opportunity to give recognition to some of those island inhabitants in this inaugural presentation of the MMAs, the Malcolm Mime Awards. Education. There were a number of times in 2018 when I wrote about the poor Ofsted results on the island. But my annoyance was aimed not at the teaching staff, but at the false promises made by our council. Conservative leader, Councillor Dave Stewart, still refuses to admit his pledge of 2017 to get 25% of island schools to a rating of outstanding was nothing other than blatant electioneering. But although not one single school has been given an outstanding rating in the 19 months since the Tories came to power, there are some very good results being achieved by some of our schools, none more so than at Cowes Enterprise College. In the face of adversity, the Cowes Enterprise College this year had the best GCSE results on the island and drew praise from Ofsted Director Chris Russell, who stated in the Ofsted annual report the school had turned themselves around. The school is actually an independently run academy, as opposed to a school run by the Isle of Wight Council, and so the MMA for education goes to head teacher at Cowes Enterprise, Rachel Kitley, herein known as Rachel Kitley MMA. Industry. The island is known worldwide for its tourism, royal connections, yachting and festivals, but what it isn't particularly well known for is its manufacturing. However, there is a company on the industrial estate in Lake called the Meeting Pod Company, which makes composite workplace pods. Although the company has only been in existence for 3 years, it is successfully selling pods all over the UK and continues to go from strength to strength. The company is the brainchild of talented former footballer Tom Dunford, who was once on the books of Southampton. Tom quit football at the age of just 24 to concentrate on making pods, and his dedication is paying off. The MMA for industry goes to Tom Dunford. themeetingpod.co.uk. Entrepreneur. Although the aforementioned Meeting Pod Company was the brainchild of Tom Dunford, the person who invested the money to get it off the ground was local entrepreneur Mike Dalloz. Mike's first start-up business was the lettings company Deacons, which he opened in Newport in the late 1980s. Following a couple of takeovers and mergers, Deacons became Island Lettings, these days one of the Isle of Wight's biggest letting agencies. But aside from Island Lettings and the Meeting Pod Company, Mr. Dalloz's biggest success to date is another island-based company, Performance in People, which he started in 2000. This customer service consultancy business now employs 90 people in its headquarters in Ryde. So if you add those people to those employed at Island Lettings and the Meeting Pod Company, it makes Mike Dalloz an unsung hero of employment on the island, and he, therefore, thoroughly deserves his MMA. And the last is Mine Host. The island has lost many great pubs over the years, and we saw a number close their doors in 2018, so anyone who makes a pub work in these challenging times should be applauded. Someone who makes multiple pubs work should not just be applauded, but should receive an MMA. And that is exactly why publican Martin Bullock is receiving one. Not content with successfully running the Fishbourne, the Boathouse in Seaview, and the Spinnaker in Bembridge, this year Martin, together with his wife Lisa, opened Artisan, formerly Joe de Flo's, in Union Street, Ryde.
Now, behind the news. And here we have honours for Isle of Wight's unsung heroes. The former Mayor of Cowes, Jeff Banks, who is also well known for his tireless work promoting links between the town and Poland, has been awarded the British Empire Medal for services to the community. Mr. Banks, 74, moved to the island in 1969, having been educated and having also been working in Bath up until that time. He founded his own building firm, G.J. Banks Limited, but is best known for his involvement in a host of organisations promoting the well-being of cows. Among those is the Gateway Cows Project, which he initiated, and the Northwood House Charitable Trust Company Limited, where he served as a technical advisor. He served as a councillor with Cowes Town Council for 28 years and was mayor 12 times. As mayor, he formed the North Medina Community Development Trust Limited and was also a board member of the Isle of Wight Housing Association for many years. He was the co-founder of the Friends of the ORP Bliskawika Society, which raises awareness of and communicates the defence of cows and East Cowes by the Polish vessel.
Another islander, Terence Blunden, has also been awarded the BEM. Mr. Blunden, 79, of Holbury Lane, Newport, is a former chairman of the Isle of Wight Sports Council and is also secretary of the Isle of Wight branch of the Historical Association. Mr. Blunden was born on the island and trained as a PE and history teacher at King Alfred's College in Winchester, now Winchester University. He worked on the mainland for a couple of years before he returned to live on the Isle of Wight, as, like so many people, I miss the sea at the weekends. He taught at the former West Wight Secondary Modern School and then served as teacher for 25 years at Ryde High School, where he was a careers guidance master. He retired from teaching 23 years ago. He said, "When I came back to the Isle of Wight in 1965, there was no heated public swimming pool here, so I became involved in the Isle of Wight Indoor Swimming Pool Association. I also became involved with the Sports Council and was chairman for 25 years. He became secretary of the Isle of Wight branch of the Historical Association in 1999 and, supported by a very good committee and officers, helped to raise the profile of the association, which now has more than 200 members. He is also involved in 2 Newport charities, the Newport Grammar School Trust and the Worsley Almshouses charity. He is involved in producing the Carisbrooke Parish newsletter."
And Brian Flowell, a police officer at Her Majesty's Prisons, Isle of Wight, was awarded an MBE for services to the Her Majesty's Prison Service and the community on the Isle of Wight. Mr. Flowell, 39, is also a retained firefighter at East Cowes. He is married to Claire and the couple have 2 children. He began his career in the RAF, but joined the prison service in 2004 and spent his early career at Her Majesty's Prison Camp Hill before its closure. He now works at the Parkhurst section of Her Majesty's Prison, Isle of Wight. He said, "For the vast majority of my career in the service, I have worked in segregation units, and I also do a lot of training for new staff. I carry out a lot of specialised, quite difficult roles, helping challenging and vulnerable prisoners that only a few of us in the service do."
Former Medina High School and Isle of Wight College student Michelle Richmond, now a director at the Institution of Engineering and Technology, was awarded an MBE for services to engineering. Michelle, 53, who was born in Whippingham, completed her apprenticeship at Siemens Plessey Radar, now BAE Systems, and worked there for 13 years before moving to Bedfordshire in 1995. She was recognised for her work as Ambassador for Women in Engineering and for spearheading education projects to encourage young people into science, technology, engineering and maths fields.
And now, what's on? The Isle of Wight branch of the Royal Aeronautical Society invites you to its first lecture of 2019, 3 fighters from 3 wars and what they like to fly. Delivered by retired RAF Wing Commander Mike Brooke. This lecture offers a fascinating insight into British military aviation in the 20th century by a test pilot who is one of the very few people to have flown all 3 iconic aircraft. Mike joined the RAF in 1962 at the age of 17 and trained as a pilot. His first assignment was in a low-level strike attack Canberra Squadron, followed by tours of duty in flight instruction, experimental test piloting, radar research, helicopter piloting, and as a test pilot tutor. He is a graduate of the Empire Test Pilot School and the RAF Advanced Staff College, and held command of flying at RAF Farnborough and the position of Wing Commander flying at Boscombe Down. Mike retired from full-time RAF service in 1994 but remained active in the world of aviation, working as a test flying consultant for 8 years. And now retired, he lives on the island. Mike was awarded the Air Force Cross in 1984 by the Queen and is a Fellow of the Society of Experimental Test Pilots, a Master Pilot of the Honorary Company of Air Pilots, and a Freeman of the City of London. The lecture is at 6 p.m. on Thursday, January the 17th, in the conference room at the Isle of Wight College.
A trio starts classical season in style. West Wight Arts Association welcomes Trio Izimzids to Freshwater Memorial Hall this month. The name Izimidzic means unknown in Turkish, but Pablo Hernan Benedi, violin, Michael Petrov, cello, and Erdem Mizirlioglu, piano, are already becoming very well known and successful. Formed in 2009 at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, where the musicians are currently fellows, in 2015 they won both first prize and the audience prize at the Trondheim competition. On the programme for this month's concert are Mozart's Divertimento in B-flat K 254, Fares Trio in D minor Opus 120, and Brahms Trio in B major Opus 8. The concert, next Saturday, January the 12th, starts at 7 p.m. and tickets are available from Totland Parish Office on 756028.
And the Ride Social Heritage Group invites you to a talk on the history of Yelf's Hotel next Saturday, January the 12th, at the George Street Centre from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The talk will be presented by Linda Skerr and Simon Deere of the Isle of Wight Record Office. There will be refreshments and a raffle. Free admission for RSHG members, that's Royal Social Heritage Group members, £2 for visitors. All are welcome.
Every Friday, there is a weekly drop-in at Downside Community Centre, Furlongs, Newport. Call in for help with debt, education, employment, filling out forms and applications, health and housing. Everybody is welcome to this free session, which is confidential and friendly.
And following 2 successful and well-attended taster sessions, there is a new afternoon WI opening in Bembridge. The ladies voted on the name, the Bembridge Bells. The inaugural meeting will be on Monday, January the 14th at 2 p.m. at the Spinnaker, Stane Road, Bembridge. Meetings will take place on the second Monday of each month in the Spinnaker at 2 p.m. Some ladies come in time for lunch before the meeting begins. On February the 11th, there will be a talk by Steve Warburton called 60 Birds in 60 Minutes, describing his walk from Welcome in Lane End to his home by the harbour. In the spring, the ladies hope to follow his walk, which will probably culminate in the toll gate or the pilot boat. The group comprises lively ladies of various ages, interests and experiences, but all are friendly, welcoming and enthusiastic. The aim of this group is for fun and friendship.
From today, Friday, Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council will be based at the Guildhall, Newport, for the administration side of its work. But 3 days a week, it will have a desk at the Lord Louis Library for anyone wishing to raise issues. The desk will be manned from 10 a.m. to noon on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and from 1:30 to 3:30 on Thursdays. Parish council meetings will be held at various locations in the area, including the Riverside Centre. Check the website www.newportwight.org.uk for the latest news for meeting times.
And a new gentle duplicate bridge session for beginners is starting in Wesley Hall, Freshwater. All players are welcome and will play 12 to 16 pre-dealt hands of bridge. Assistance will be available to help with bidding and card play. There will be a host, so you will be guaranteed a partner. The sessions start on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. and will continue on February the 12th and March the 12th. For details, call Philip on 07712 108645.
A brief history of astronomy is the subject of a talk by Dr. Nick England at the Isle of Wight branch of the Historical Association on Wednesday. It takes place at the Riverside Centre, Newport, at 7:30 p.m. For details, call 524410.
And 2 more. Isle of Wight Police are holding a beat surgery at God's Hill Post Office on Wednesday from 9:30 to 10 to hear any issues raised by residents. And then there's action on hearing loss will be at Grove Road Surgery, Ventnor, between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. on Wednesday for the monthly drop-in. Go along for advice, batteries, cleaning and retubing of NHS hearing aids. No appointment necessary. Call 529 533 for more information.
Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council manages 7 allotment sites in Newport at Castle Road, Field House, Clatterford Road, Millers Lane, Pan, Hillside, Pan Country Park and Alvington Manor Road, with the 8th site in Alvington Road, Carisbrooke, managed by an allotments association. If you are interested in putting your name down on the allotment waiting list, drop into the new council office at the Guildhall, telephone 55919, or email clark@newportwight.org.uk.
Now, do you want to work in the arts? Take inspiration. A former Ryde High School pupil and art director for the BBC hopes to inspire young islanders to aim for careers in the arts. Susie Herbert-Light, 38, of Ryde, has just finished shooting a one-off Christmas comedy special, Click and Collect, starring Stephen Merchant of The Office and Asim Chowdhury, who played Chowbadi G in hit mockumentary People Just Do It Nothing. Click and Collect aired on Christmas Eve and featured Merchant and Chowdhury as two mismatched neighbours driving 300 miles to pick up a sparkle hoof, the one toy that will make a little girl's Christmas dreams come true. Susie is also a successful interior designer and stylist behind the Isle of Wight and London-based Herbert Light studio. She has worked on huge commercial and charity campaigns for well-known brands, including British Airways, and is regularly sent off to shoot on location, managing huge budgets and even larger teams of people. Now, she would like to get the word out to young people in the hopes of guiding them to find their way into creative lines of work. I think it's important to show there are other things out there, said Susie. When I'm working in television, I don't see many people from state schools or with similar backgrounds to mine. When I was at school, it didn't feel as if we were encouraged enough to pursue careers that were a bit left field. I don't think schools provide the right information about the large range of different things people can do. For example, I didn't know what an art director was when I was at school, or a buyer, or dresser. People can also be a carpenter on TV or an electrician. The art department teams are huge. It is an incredibly tough industry to get into, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Basically, I just want to get the message out to kids who have thought about working in TV, film, or any artistic field that it is possible if you pursue it.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today, so we would like to say goodbye and a very happy 2019.
Goodbye.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Audiobooks. Are you someone who gets immersed in them, or do they just send you off to sleep? Perhaps I come into both categories there. Well, love them or think they're a cop-out, the audiobook market has grown enormously in recent times, so it does seem that the rest of the world is catching up on a medium many blind people have been enjoying since at least 1936, when the RNIB Talking Book Library opened on gramophone records. And with the festive period out of the way and January's cold days stretching in front of us, it just might be the ideal time for some guilt-free listening in front of a nice warm fire. Well, we've got two guests who will bring you one audiobook recommendation each and will avidly argue for their choices, I'm sure. First of all, Sally Clay is a musical theatre director, singer and pianist. She's recently appeared as a judge on BBC Two's All Together Now. And here she is recreating one much-loved comedian Victoria Wood's most recognisable song.
Let's do it tonight. Let's do it, I really want to rant and rave. Let's go, cause I know just how I want you to behave. Not bleakly, not weakly, beat me on the bottom of the comments weekly. Let's do it tonight.
And I'm sure somewhere in the ether, Victoria will be singing along, thinking, God, there's two of me. That's Sally, and Let's Do It. In a couple of sentences, what's your book and why do you love it?
My book is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. And the reason I love it is partly the suspense, the way it kind of, it's about somebody with amnesia, so the way it kind of unfolds very slowly and kind of drip feeds you bits of information, but also just the kind of dynamic between this woman and her husband and how that unfolds throughout the book as well.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read and listen, and we'll talk about it a bit later. Also with us is the man who plays this lovable larrikin.
I only offered to walk her home. She's the one that didn't want to go. So what could I do but let her keep it mine?
But your room is tiny.
Didn't stop her. In fact, she said, I thought you'd never ask.
And?
Well, we had a great night, despite Roy. When she came back to mine, she fell asleep the minute she hit the pillar.
So what did you do?
Took her shoes off and slept on the sofa.
Aww.
What? I didn't want to waken up thinking the worst. And next thing you know, hashtagging me and all.
So nothing happened because she was inebriated. And what does she do in the morning?
Left. Early as. Gone. Knew she wouldn't even answer her call.
The softer side of Jazza that we didn't even know was there. Ryan Kelly, of course, plays Jazza McCreary in The Archers, alongside Fallon Rogers, which was played by Joanna Van Kampen. Ryan, are you a fan of reading through listening?
Yeah, always have been since I can remember, since I was about 3, I think. Only it was story tapes back then, and you couldn't find them anywhere. They were very hard to get hold of.
And what's your book, and briefly why?
It's the first 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I loved it because it seemed to have a bit of everything. You know, a bit of suspense, a bit of stuff that makes you think, a bit of adventure.
And time travel as well.
Oh, absolutely. But it's it's very sci-fi type of book. It's great fun, though. It was really good to sort of listen to.
I'm going to chime in because it's the presenter's prerogative with my own pick. I'm quite new to listening to books regularly because I've always preferred reading them in Braille, but I'm beginning to acknowledge that listening can sometimes be a bit more convenient. I've always loved hard-boiled American crime fiction, going right back to some of the classic writers in the genre like Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, people like that. And I'm delighted to see still being brought out. And I've chosen a book by a new writer to me, Steve Kavanagh. It's called 13. And I'll tell you a bit more about it later on. But Sally, back to you first. Tell us more about your choice.
It's a thriller, really. It's about a lady who every time that she goes to sleep, she forgets who she is, and she wakes up thinking that she is about 20 years younger than she actually is in reality. And she's got this whole chunk of her memory missing. She doesn't know where she is. When, she goes and looks in the mirror and thinks, who the heck's this old woman looking back at me? That isn't me. And gets totally freaked out and bamboozled. So her husband, Ben, is having to leave notes for her, to enable her to sort of piece together her life and her history. And throughout the book, she creates, with the help of a doctor, a psychologist, a journal of her life and what's happened. And it's all about her piecing together bits of her life. And every morning she still has this kind of whole thing going on, waking up, not knowing who she is. And it's kind of resetting. But every day she's drip fed a bit more information.
And what do you think this is really about? Because it's very much playing with the idea of memory, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's also about it's why, what causes them, these traumatic things that cause the memory to kind of block things out, and how does it work, and it doesn't come back in chronological order. It's kind of pieces and fragments of different kinds of memory that come back to her. And I think it's a lot about the dynamic between her and her husband. It's a lot about the relationships that she has had and how they have affected her. And the kind of juxtaposition between her husband now and her husband when she was younger, and the things she can slowly remember about him and how he is now.
And it really is one of those books that gradually unwinds, isn't it?
Yeah, and it gets right. It starts off quite slow, and I suspect that if you're anything like me, Ryan, that you would have actually felt that oh God, come on, But actually, after as it goes on, it becomes a lot racier towards the end.
It happened without me realising it, I must admit. I was sort of 90 minutes in and I thought, do you know what, I love this. For the first 90 minutes I'm going, come on. And then about, I don't know, an hour and a half or so, this is really good. I need to, I need to sort of shut everyone up and listen to this properly, put headphones on,
Can I say, Sally, I in some ways, I found it a bit of an exasperating book. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it, but it's one of those books where, I mean, for example, given the premise that she forgets everything, each day, I started to play this game of thinking, has the author got it right? Could she possibly have known that? How come she knew that? I mean, like the first time she woke up, I thought, possibly rather stupidly, I thought, well, if she doesn't know where she is, how can she find the bathroom? And then, of course, I thought, oh, that's a blind person's
Yeah, that is a blind. Yeah, she's got full sight.
Yeah,
that is one of the few things she has retained.
I know. But there were things I thought, hang on. As S.J. Watson made a mistake here, wouldn't she have remembered that? It's really very difficult to get your head round it. And I suppose the author probably thinks that they can cheat a little bit because memory is so slippery.
Yeah, and also human memory isn't actually stored in that way, is it? It's kind of the human memory is reconstructive. So that does happen in real life, doesn't it? The memory is inaccurate and incorrect.
And we got to be aware of spoilers, of course, in this kind of programme. But it is sort of, and there's an element of crime in all our choices, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which gradually emerges as well. But it's a bit of a moany book, isn't it?
It is. It can be a bit. And and I must say that the female character, she is a bit of a victim. And that's the one criticism that I had of the book, was that she was, it was this poor woman and all these things had happened to her, and it's kind of putting her into a very passive position. But actually, I think that she does kind of grow into herself as the book unfolds.
What about voice? They're important, aren't they, the voices who read? Ryan, what did you make of the reader of this?
Susanna Harker. I loved the narrator. I thought she was great. Slightly wrong accent if she's meant to be from London. There was a little bit of a northern brogue in there sometimes. But it didn't matter. She just had the right voice for it anyway. It worked for me, a treat.
And I take it, Sally, as you picked it, you enjoyed her reading of it as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, for me, I always tend, when I listen to a book, to often kind of overlay whoever's reading it with my own head voice interpretation of it without even meaning to. It's just a thing that happens. And so I suppose I kind of just get immersed in the content rather than the reader. Okay, if there's somebody that I really dislike, or if it's really slow and they're not, getting the inflections right or whatever, then I do find it difficult. But I would say that she was a very good vehicle for whatever it was that S.J. Watson was portraying.
I would agree.
Yeah. And did it have a satisfying ending for you without telling people what happens?
Yes, yeah. I thought it was good. No, you don't think so? Go on, Ryan, come on then.
I wanted to know what happened next. I wanted to know what happened when she woke up.
Was that deliberate, do you think, Sally?
Oh, it definitely was.
Yeah, leaving
like
it, but very frustrating. You didn't like it.
Oh, you see, I like that, that kind of ambiguity. I don't want to know, because, she got up and she washed her hair and she remembered, whatever, no.
It's a matter of individual taste. I did think that when I thought, but come on, and I thought other people would actually love that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. The film Inception, it's kind of that bit at the end, you're not sure what's going on next and you're not sure what's going to happen. Sorry, I'm going off on one now, but yeah.
But of course, this was made as a very successful film as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen the film yet. I keep meaning to go and, to go and get it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Nicole Kidman, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So a strong recommendation from Sally on that one, and we will give some more details at the end of the programme, and they'll be on the website. As for my book, as I said, it's called 13. I mean, it is hard-boiled crime fiction. I'd be the first to admit it's got all the classic cliches of such books. An indestructible hero, whatever they do to him. Unfeasibly large consumption of alcohol by just about everybody, even more than Jazza, I think. More plot twists than a scenic railway. Oh, and it's got a thoroughly amoral psychopath.
Brilliant.
as well. But what I love about Kavanagh, the author, it's very tightly written, deeply ingenious, I think, and a clever plot, which you don't always get in this kind of fiction. Raymond Chandler, who's probably my favourite of all, was notorious for not understanding his own plots. And when people asked him what was happening there, he said, I don't know. He said if you get stuck, just put a man in a room with a gun in his hand. But Kavanagh is much more inventive than that, I think. And I'll explain a bit about the whole 13 business, because the clue is in the title. It's not a spoiler because you know what's going on in this book right from the start, because everybody tells you. We hear from the psychopath and the defence lawyer and so forth. And the issue is not who's doing what, but how they're going to do it and will it work. The basic premise of 13 is that the psychopath kills people more or less at random, but then frames people he doesn't like and then gets himself on the juries, trying the case, if necessary, by eliminating the odd juror in order to be sure of getting the verdict he wants. It's just a brilliant idea right from the start. I'm not aware of anyone else who's done it, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's likely to be a very successful series, and one of the things it's really good on is juries and how they can be influenced. This will give you a bit of an idea.
3 really is the magic number. It holds some kind of important place in our minds, and we see it all the time in our culture and daily lives. If you get a call from a wrong number once, well, that's just life. If you get the same call from a wrong number again, that's coincidence. If you get a third call, you know something is going on. The number 3 equates to some form of truth or fact in our subconscious. It is somehow divine. Jesus rose on the 3rd day, the Holy Trinity, 3rd time lucky, 3 strikes and you're out. Pryor made 3 promises. He said the word guilty 3 times. He said the word 3. He held up 3 fingers. The rhythms and cadences of his speech revolved around the number 3. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to theorize. I'm going to show you the truth. This case is about sex, money, and revenge. Even the structure of Pryor's speech was built around that number. First, he told the jury he was going to tell them 3 things. Second, he told them 3 things. Third, he told them what he just said.
Ryan, are you into this type of crime fiction?
Yes, I do. I must confess, I haven't finished it yet. I've still got about an hour to go, so do not spoil it. I've not read any Steve Kavanagh before, but it has a Raymond Chandler stroke Thomas Harris aspect about it too. You've got the lovely descriptions of the way the psychopath is doing things, and the narrator's just right for it too.
Sally, I mean, you haven't finished it either, but you claim you've got an excuse, don't you?
Yeah, I've got 2 young kids, so that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it.
Fair enough. But do you enjoy this kind of, particularly the American genre, but are you into crime fiction?
I do like crime fiction. I'm not going to say that I'm an aficionado, you know. It's not something that I generally read, although I'm very open-minded about what I read, so I definitely will finish it, and I think it'll be a shame not to know what actually happens.
Just before we move on to the last book, I'm quite curious about how you read, where you read, and what else you do when you read. Sally first?
Going down to the shops or whatever, I've got my kiddie on my back and I've got my audiobook in one ear, and then she's asking me questions about whatever's going on in the other ear.
And what about you, Ryan?
On the train, outside, while I'm doing the dishes, just anywhere I feel like it, really. I drive the wife mad at night because I always put an audiobook on before I go to sleep, and she's generally asleep before me. That drives her insane. But
can you see? Listening to these books, I have regularly gone to sleep. It's not that I didn't like them, or I went to sleep during my own, the one I loved.
Yeah, I've done that quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I did it.
It's been claimed on my headphones by the producer that I fell asleep in the office listening to them as well. That may or may not be true. Finally, Ryan, your book.
It's the first 15 Lives of Harry August. It starts off with the fact that he remembers being here before, so to speak. And he's actually able to put things right that he did wrong the first time or the second time or the third time or the first 14 times. It's got everything. It's got a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of crime, as Peter said about all the books, and lots and lots of suspense.
It's funny, isn't it? There's a theme here, isn't there? Because, I mean, the heroine, if that's what she is in Sally's book, she keeps living the same kind of day. And that's, in a way, what happens in your book, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's a whole life. But I loved it. It was really intricate. I loved
loved it as well.
Yeah, tell us why, Sally.
What I really liked about it was the fact that it wasn't taking itself too seriously, you know, and it would jump in and out of these kind of musings, these philosophical musings, but then it would kind of go on to take the mickey. He meets this Thai guy, how he explains to Harry that he's going to kill him, but it's in such a roundabout way that, and it is so funny. I was just sitting there absolutely laughing my head off, and her metaphors are absolutely second to none. They're brilliant.
Ryan?
The end part where things are coming to a crunch. It was the part I liked. I don't want to spoil it because
it's tricky,
everyone
isn't it?
should read this book. But
Yeah, they should. They definitely should.
Well, that's a very strong recommendation. Can I ask you both, because now there is quite a diversity of audiobooks, but I'm just curious to know where you pick your books from. Sally?
Well, actually, I got my copy of Harry August from RNIB Overdrive,
Right.
the digital downloadable form of the Talking Book Library. I used Kindle, I used books that have been scanned in by friends and then edited, but I'm too lazy to do that. Plus, with 2 children, how could I possibly find the time?
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'll listen with synthetic speech. I listen using a computer, you know, just anything.
Just
and
about
everything.
any way you can.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan?
I like voices, I'm afraid. I'm a bit picky. Synthetic speech, because I use it to learn lines with, when you're sort of listening to a book with it, you think, hang on, am I still at work here? What's, you know? It's also, you know, it's like listening to the scanners at the supermarket or Alexa.
Oh, it is actually.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
There was an advent calendar. Ask me to read The Night Before Christmas. I asked it to read The Night Before Christmas for the first 4 lines and then went off. I can't be coping with this voice. It tries its best, but it's still a robot. No, it doesn't work for me.
But it's really slow, though. I mean, you know, I tend to listen to my speech pretty sped up, so that it's kind of, I don't really notice that it's speech.
And that doesn't spoil it for you, speeding it up? Or do
No,
you?
I mean, if I had it too fast, I think I wouldn't be able to process. You know, I mean, I've only got 1 brain cell at the moment. You know, that's not used up with child rearing. I'm going to keep milking it. You know.
You'll never guess this, guys, but Sally is a mum.
She's got 2 kids.
I think so. Look, thank you both for some great selections, and I'm sure you're going to add to people's enjoyment of 2019 with all that. All the books we've mentioned can be found on Amazon Audible, and do tell us what you like to read and how you like to read it. You can email us at intouch@bbc.co.uk. You can call our action line on 0800 044 044, and you can listen to this programme again on BBC Sounds. That's it from me, Peter Wight, producer Lee Kumatat, and our bookworms, Sally Clay and Ryan Kelly. Happy New Year.
Scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding, hoarding, also details of skips, cranes and cherry pickers. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. The Cows area. Current scaffolds. 93 High Street Cows, scaffold up within hoarding. 1 Birmingham Road Cows. New scaffolds, the White Hart Inn, Dover Road, East Cows. Current hoardings, 93 High Street Cows. Current skips, 19 Bernard Road Cows, 13 Maxted Close Cows, 50 York Avenue East Cows and 12 Stanley Road Cows.
Newport area. Current scaffolds. Cash Recycle Shop, 140 High Street, Newport. Chantry House, 30 Pyle Street, Newport. 39 Key Street, Newport. Ryde, Seaview and Bembridge. Current scaffolds. J.D. Weatherspoon, 41 to 43 Union Street, Ryde. New scaffolds. 148 to 149 High Street, Ryde. Current skips. 32 Foreland Road, Bembridge. 2 Spithead Close, Seaview. Carita, Stane Road, Seaview. Building materials and hoarding. Car park, Brooks Road, Bembridge.
Sandown and Shanklin area. Current scaffolds. Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown. The Toy Master, 103 High Street, Sandown. Sandown Library, 119 High Street, Sandown, Sandringham Hotel, Esplanade, Sandown, Wilmer Dorkin and Vermyper Cottages, Church Street, New Church, Brian Cook Furnishers, 77 High Street, Shanklin. Current hoardings: Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown, junction of St Boniface Road and Arthur's Hill, Shanklin. Ventnor area: current scaffolds, corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor. And in the West Wight area, currently there are no scaffolds at the moment.